Welcome back to the Blue Chip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. It's time for my thoughts on day 6 of Fall Camp 2024. All the news and notes from the insiders. Y'all, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's start off with the injury report. Cam Seldon was limited. Mike Matthews was also limited, but he was actually out there participating, running around some. So that's a really good sign. Obviously, Jordan Thomas is out for the season, but Jordan Burns, Jalen McMurray, John Campbell, Andre Carrick, Arion Carter, who is new to this list, Caleb Webb, who was also new, and Dante Thornton were also limited. But it sounds like with everyone that's limited, they were actually out on the field participating. So that's going to be a little bit different from some of the previous practices. But I would say that it's no cause for concern at this point. It's day 6 of fall camp, so players will be kind of banged up, just dealing with some, minor things. And we're going to hold them out just to be safe. But everyone, as far as what I can see and what I've heard, is expected to be available by week 1. That's where we want to keep things at, especially with the scrimmage coming up on Friday, knock on wood. As long as we come up out of that one healthy, I really love our chances. And of course, anything could happen on any day, but that's the one that I'm kind of holding my breath for, because typically in that first one is when you'll kind of see some of those, kind of like major injuries. But again, knock on wood, I don't think that that's going to happen. Our strength staff is doing a really good job of keeping our guys healthy. Now, as far as the media goes, we got to hear from Coach Rodney Garner, who is the defensive line coach. We got to hear from 4 defensive linemen: Joshua Josephs, Jackson Moy, Tyree Weathersby, and Caleb Herring. So starting off with Coach G, he typically doesn't throw out a whole lot of praise, right? He's not one of those over-the-top praisers, but you can tell that he's very confident with this room. Had a lot of good things to say about them individually, but as a unit, he talks about he likes to rotate 10 guys, and that's what he's done everywhere that he's been. He says he feels like this is the deepest room that they've had up in Tennessee, and that they should have no trouble being able to rotate. He just wants for guys to stay healthy. Sounds like some of those veterans inside of that room are, doing a good job of policing it, was his verbiage that he used, and just making sure that everyone knows what the expectations are. So that's always really big, just to be able to kind of take care of things without the coaches having to step in. I think that that is for sure the sign of a group that's going to take another step this season. He also talked some about Tyree Weathersby, which I thought was interesting. He just said, well, he's still kind of trying to get things figured out. So will he be a starter by week 1? Will all depend on how much he can get things figured out, before the end of fall camp. So looking forward to that. But again, a whole lot of great things to say. He was very surprised with Jackson Moy, and he kind of said that, well, he kind of spoiled my plans for him moving forward. I think that the plan was to redshirt him, but I mean, you could just kind of see it in his film that he's too good. And because we like to rotate so many bodies, I mean, he deserves the opportunity to play. And it also sounds like he's been getting a lot of respect from his teammates, which is always huge. Now, let's talk about Caleb Herring. He talked about gaining like 45 pounds since he came up on campus. I think he came up at like 205, and now he's up to, anywhere between about 245 to 255. He wants to kind of stay in that ballpark, and he wants to play at 250. He talked about, how much he has to eat, which, I mean, if anyone's ever, played sports and you had to gain weight, you understand how much of a struggle that can be, especially whenever you're out there running all day. But I love his dedication to being better. He's very happy with that room. Said some good things about Jordan Ross. Said some good things about several players inside of that room. So there's a whole lot of confidence there. And then he also spoke about just kind of getting adjusted to his brother not being here with him, like he has been since he's been up on campus. So it does sound like he's going to be just fine. That's something that personally I was kind of worried about, but sounds like he's happy here. He just kept on laughing and smiling. So you absolutely love to see that. Now, as far as Jackson Moore, he talked about also just kind of getting acclimated, coming from the West Coast, all the way down here to the South. He loves the Southern hospitality. I think a lot of the players that, come from outside of the South, they have a lot of things just to say about that, which is big. He also talked about, his Polynesian culture and just kind of getting acclimated to that, and just feeling like everyone has embraced his culture, which you love to see, you love to hear. Everyone should feel comfortable inside of our locker room. And I'm proud of all of our players for stepping up that way. And I think that that's just a sign of how good of a coaching staff we have, how many great leaders we have inside of that building. So impressed with what he had to say there. I think that he's going to have a really big year. Now on to Tyree Weathersby. He just kind of talked about, how deep that room is. He loves that competition, and just kind of, getting adjusted to, in his first season, couldn't play, but now he's out there and he's taking all those reps, kind of like Coach G said, just trying to get things figured out, and, just getting himself back into shape. But it does sound like he feels comfortable with his hip. and that he's not expected to be gimpy or anything like that. So that's huge. Definitely want to hear some good notes about him coming out of the first scrimmage on Friday. Now Joshua Joseph, he had a lot of good things to say. I feel like he was just being candid when he told everybody that he was a little bit jealous of James Pierce last season. And hearing the way that he's talking, hearing his confidence level, whenever he's saying, man, I can really feel that extra pop. He said, like now whenever I'm making contact with people, I know how to use my length. And he said that he feels like his first step is very explosive. So I think that he is a player, right? And that jealousy, I don't think that it was like an unhealthy jealousy. It was just kind of like, well, I came in kind of like above where James Pierce was at as far as some of the experts and things like that were thinking, but then he just passed me up in year two. And now I feel like he's going to, just kind of make it personal, right? Like make it personal within himself to try to get out there and outdo James Pierce. And that kind of like friendly back and forth is really, really big. I think that Joshua Joseph is going to have a breakout season for us this year. Do not be surprised, like I told y'all like a day or two ago, if he ends up with double digit sacks. All right, let's stick with that defensive line. Not a whole lot of insider news and notes, but just based off of what I saw out there, I love it. I kind of talked about it in the highlights from earlier that I feel like we're staying fresh. There's a whole lot of pop, a whole lot of burst. And I can really say that about every single position group on this team. I don't know exactly how different the practice schedule has been and what we've been doing different inside of that weight room or conditioning, but you can just tell that there is a different level of focus, a different level of pop, and we look like we are in good shape. Now, Coach G did say that he felt like we needed to get in better shape, but I just think he was trying to find anything at all that he could throw out there to say just to keep his group from getting that big head. But yeah, I mean, just super deep everywhere. I mean, I cannot say enough about how good all those bodies look and how much fun it's going to be this season to see that pass rush be consistent. That's something else that Joshua Josephs kind of talked about. And he pretty much highlighted everybody, kind of like how we would do on this channel. And he's like, man, look, there's no way that you can stop it. We are going to impose our will on the opposing offensive line. He said that we could see that the offenses are afraid. They're worried because we have too many bodies. There's nothing you can do to stop everybody. And that is the truth. So proud of that room. Now let's talk about the linebackers. Didn't get to see much from them today, but they did look like they were just kind of going through getting in their run fits, working on getting some turnovers, things like that. That was also something that we talked about earlier today with the highlights is that I felt like this team will produce more turnovers. I want to see Jordan Burns get out there. No idea what's going on with him, but the fact that he hasn't really gotten out on the field and I think that he is the only one that was limited today that that we didn't mention. But I don't think that he's been out on the field really doing anything. So he is taking in mental reps. Sometimes that can help you out, but he needs to get his butt out there, as soon as he can. Obviously, they are working to get him out there, but I feel like he could be another guy, just like Edwin Spillman, that could help us out. Also with Arion Carter, how serious is whatever he's dealing with? I hope it's, nothing that's kind of lingering over from last season, but I think that he's going to be fine. Expecting a huge, huge year from him just because his speed is crazy. I mean, for him to be about 6'1", 6'2", 235-ish pounds and look like he's running about a 4.40, I mean, that's first round numbers. You know what I mean? Can he go out there and play like that is a whole different story. But I just think that we look so good right there. And it's going to be a very much improved room from what I can tell. Now let's talk about our secondary. Let's finish it up with the defense. I think that they look great in and out of their transitions. We always say that. It sounds like there's been a whole lot of emphasis in trying to get Boo Carter ready. So depending on what he does on Friday, he could end up kind of running away with that. But I also think that Christian Harrison has looked really good. Now, again, they're just going through fundamental reps. So that's really all you can tell is how good of an athlete are they? Do they look like they're physically capable of going out there and playing on Saturdays? I think that we have several people who can. Also, Christian Charles looks good there as well. But all those guys are also very physical. So I would expect that that would probably be the three at the star position, but you also have Jalen, who I feel like could do it as well. He did it some at Temple, but he has to get healthy enough to get some contact for us to feel comfortable with it. But I do think that that slot position really suits him a little bit more. Just a little bit concerned about him kind of getting beat deep, which I guess you would worry about that slot fade. But at the end of the day, my whole point saying all this is I feel very, very good about the amount of quality bodies that we have that can play at the star position. And, we'll see what happens at safety. I still think that Edris Farouk is a guy who looks really good. Now, I haven't heard a whole lot about him behind the scenes, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe coming out of this scrimmage on Friday, we hear some good things about him. Definitely looks like he's been getting taller. He's longer. And I I mean, he looks great in and out of his transitions. I know that he's a physical player. I got to see him in person down in Buford last season, so I know that he can play. But that room is going to be great. Of course, the cornerbacks that as the starters, Ricky Gibson and Jamal McCoy, two guys that you most definitely trust. So hoping to hear some really good things about them coming out of Friday's scrimmage. Now let's flip it over to the offensive side of the ball, starting off up front. I love how that offensive line looks. The more that I see them, the more confident that I'm getting with them. Everybody looks good. I mean, even Brian Grant, who, in my opinion, didn't look great last season, just the way that he's put together and the way that he's moving in and out of all those drills is beautiful. Something else that I didn't mention in the previous video with my thoughts was that we are using this new sled. And I believe it's something that one of the Callahan coaches made, and it's supposed to just kind of mimic what it's like to actually block up against real people a little bit better, something to do with the balance. I don't know all the details on that, but it looks like they're working it really, really well. Like in the previous one, I didn't think that they were doing a great job moving it, but now it looks like they're starting to figure it out. But yeah, I love that room. I think that we are very deep there. They don't get a whole lot of media attention, but I'm telling you, that group, that room, by the end of this season will be well renowned as one of the best, if not possibly the best in the entire country, just based off of the way that we play. I cannot say enough good things about what I've been seeing from all those guys, top to bottom, veterans, and even those young guys. They look like they're going to be very special. So excited about that room. Now let's talk about the quarterbacks, tight ends, and running backs. We're going to do them all together, but I think number one with the quarterbacks, they looked really crisp out there. Just for sure, have a whole lot of command. We saw some more deep passes today, like more passes across the middle of the field. And I think that we look sharp right there. I mean, Nico's putting a lot of zip on his passes, very accurate. And I think that the wide receivers are doing a good job just kind of getting the depth. You could tell that they are getting more acclimated to just, kind of getting that physical part of it because Coach Pope and, Coach Abe, they've got all those guys out there that's hitting them, whacking them, boom, boom, every time that they catch a pass. So it looks like they're used to it. And what I'm starting to notice is as they're making those catches, they're making moves. So I do think that we'll see some more yak this season. It also sounds like Chris Brazel may have been a little bit limited in some spurts of practice today, but he's one that I would most definitely expect to have a huge season. Again, happy to hear that Mike Matthews was back out there. Now let's talk some about those tight ends. Still love what I see from them. I mean, just so many really good bodies. I think that Ethan Davis has been very impressive in the clips that I've seen because he's added so much weight. He looks so much bigger, but he looks like he's kept that same speed. So he's a guy that I think could, end up getting some accolades by the end of this season on some level, right? But people will know about him. They're going to know about Holden Stays. Heard some really good things about him. Sounds like he made some good catches. Also, obviously, Miles Kittelman looking really good. So as far as the running backs go, didn't get to see very many clips, but Cam Seldon is the one that I've been watching the closest. How does he look? They're still not giving him no type of contact. Even with those pads, they're not hitting them with nothing. But at some point, I would say maybe next week. It might be the week after that. But at some point before we start the season, we will see him starting to get at least some of that, dummy contact, if not real live contact. But he looks so explosive. I think that Peyton Lewis looks very good. Deshaun Bishop is looking really good as well. So that's a really deep room. Haven't seen a whole lot of Dylan Sampson. My question for him is going to be, what's his pitch count, right? Is he going to get any reps in the scrimmage? Do we need to do that? I would say that if you give him anything, it's going to be very, very limited, something just to keep him way out the way because we need him to start. He's the only veteran really inside of that room. You can maybe say Cam Seldon, but this would only be Cam Seldon's second season inside of our system. But overall, y'all, I just think that this team looks really good. Like I told you, I've started to watch some other teams' practices and things like that. And I just feel like we look so much better than them. Now, I will say this obviously, Alabama still has great talent. They've got really good players. I would say that, man, they've got some linebackers that kind of move around like some safeties. They've got some cornerbacks and secondary pieces that their transitions are just extremely explosive. So they still have that talent. But just as far as what I'm seeing with how they're kind of operating their practices, I don't know how much is going to translate to this league. I genuinely don't. I've also seen some other teams. Like we talked about LSU. I think that they kind of look lost. I have no idea what they're doing. But they have some good athletes as well. I don't think that their defense takes as much of a step forward as some people are anticipating. Now, they had one of the worst defenses, I think, in the entire league, but I just don't see that same sort of fight, that same sort of pop, that same sort of confidence that we're seeing with our team. So I do feel like this is going to be a very special year. A whole lot of the, national media members are starting to come out and say the same things. And we told y'all that that was about to start happening once we got closer and closer to the season. So the hype is starting to grow. I think that the hype is very much warranted. And we're going to have a huge year. But y'all let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comment section. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.